Once the personal losses pile up, there's no turning back. The Power Force finale will shift from quiet executions to open war, and this is the moment where Chicago officially becomes a battlefield. Tommy won't be reacting anymore. He'll be hunting. Every move he makes from this point forward will be fueled by vengeance, not survival. When Tommy reaches this mental state, he stops thinking like a businessman and starts thinking like a weapon. And weapons don't negotiate. This is where alliances become clear. Betrayals come into the open, and everyone is forced to pick a side, whether they're ready or not. Miguel will be standing beside Tommy, but his position is far more dangerous. By choosing Tommy, Miguel is openly defying Che and stepping out of Ortega's shadow. That decision seals his fate, even if he doesn't realize it yet. Miguel has spent years being controlled, manipulated, and used, and now that he's finally fighting for himself, he becomes a threat to everyone who benefited from his obedience. His loyalty to Tommy isn't just emotional, it's symbolic. It represents rebellion against the entire structure that kept him trapped. And in the Power universe, rebels rarely get to walk away alive. As the war unfolds, each enemy moves differently. Yard will be violent and reckless, throwing soldiers into the fight without thinking about losses. Shanti, on the other hand, will be forced into a painful position. She's been betrayed, manipulated, and emotionally abused by Yard repeatedly, and this war may finally push her to choose herself over loyalty. Shanti isn't weak, she's calculated, and she understands that survival sometimes means ending the very person you once tried to protect. Their confrontation won't just be about power, it'll be about years of unresolved pain finally exploding. Shanti will stay in the shadows for as long as possible, pulling strings rather than pulling triggers. He sees himself above the chaos, but that arrogance will be his weakness. While he believes he's untouchable, Miguel is the one person who truly understands how Chai operates. If anyone deserves to end Chai, it's the man he's controlled for years. A moment where Miguel finally turns the tables and takes Chai out wouldn't just be revenge, it would be poetic justice. But that victory would come at a cost. Taking down someone like Chai puts a massive target on Miguel's back, and Ortega won't ignore that. Ortega is the true final boss of this war. Unlike the others, he's patient, strategic, and ruthless. He doesn't care about emotions, only results. He'll let others weaken each other, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. And when he does, he won't hesitate. The war for Chicago won't end when bodies stop dropping. It'll end when Ortega decides it's over, and that decision will place Tommy directly in his crosshairs, setting up the most dangerous confrontation of the entire series. As the war reaches its peak, this is where the Power universe reminds everyone that no one truly fights alone. When the odds stack too high and the enemies close in from every direction, Tommy will do what he's always done in moments of desperation. He'll call on family. Not blood family, but the kind built through loyalty, trauma, and shared survival. This is where returns start to matter, not as fan service, but as turning points in the war. The most important of these returns is Tariq. His arrival won't be loud or emotional, it'll be calculated and deadly. Tariq isn't the kid he once was. He's fully embraced the ghost mentality, moving silently, thinking strategically, and finishing what others can't. Tariq stepping into Chicago changes the balance instantly. While Tommy brings chaos, Tariq brings precision. Together they become the most dangerous combination in the Power universe. Tariq understands how final missions work, and he understands that survival sometimes means eliminating the biggest threat before it can strike again. His presence also confirms one thing clearly: Tommy's story isn't ending here. This war is about clearing the board, not closing the book. But clearing the board requires sacrifices, and not everyone fighting alongside Tommy will make it out alive. Miguel's journey reaches its emotional peak during this phase of the war. If he manages to take down Che, it won't be a victory that saves him, it'll be one that completes his arc. Miguel has spent his entire life being owned by someone else's power, and dying while fighting on his own terms would be the most meaningful ending he could get. Ortega is the one man capable of stopping him, and if Ortega pulls the trigger, Miguel's death will hit hard. Not because he loses, but because he finally wins his freedom in the process. Fighting beside Tommy, instead of serving above him, would make Miguel's death heroic rather than tragic. Shanti's fate also comes to a head here. Her confrontation with Jard won't be clean or easy. It'll be emotional, raw, and long overdue. Ending Jard would mean ending the cycle of manipulation and betrayal that defined their relationship. Jard's death wouldn't feel like justice, it would feel like release. With him gone, Shanti becomes something new, a survivor who finally controls her own future. By the time the dust starts to settle, the war will have claimed enough lives to change Chicago forever, leaving only one final enemy standing between Tommy and the end of this chapter. Section 5. The final boss, the last shot, and what comes after, when everything else is finished. When Jard is gone, Chai is dealt with, and the streets are covered in the aftermath of war, all roads lead to one final confrontation, Tommy versus Ortega. This isn't just a fight for control of Chicago, it's a clash of philosophies. Ortega represents order through fear, control through structure, and power without emotion. Tommy represents chaos, loyalty, and survival at any cost. This showdown won't be about who has more soldiers, it'll be about who's willing to go further. Ortega will push Tommy to his absolute limit, exposing every weakness created by loss and grief. And for a moment, it will look like Tommy is about to lose everything, including his life. This is where the unexpected becomes inevitable. Just when Ortega believes he's won, just when he's ready to deliver the final blow, Tariq will step in and finish the mission. Clean, fast, and final. Ortega's death won't just end the war, it'll symbolically pass the torch. Tommy clears the battlefield, but Tariq secures the future. That moment confirms what many fans already believe. The Ghost legacy never died, it evolved. And while the real Ghost may not physically return, his presence will be felt in every choice Tommy and Tariq make moving forward. With Chicago finally silent, Tommy makes his last move. He doesn't stay. Chicago was never meant to be his forever home. It was a proving ground. Handing over what remains of the business to Shanti is his way of closing the chapter with respect, rather than domination. Tommy, Tariq, and Demak leaving together signals a new beginning, not peace, but purpose, a new city, a new empire, and a new story waiting to be told. The finale won't end with celebration, it'll end with reflection, a memory of the past, a reminder of where it all began. Whether it's a flashback or a quiet moment of remembrance, Ghost's influence will loom large over the final scene.